So yesterday I had the opportunity to go see Bernie Sanders here in Atlanta at a town hall meeting, very intimate setting. I think there was maybe 50 people there, maybe 100, between 50 and 100. And I had a chance to ask a question, and my question was about impeachment and the fact that there are Republicans, or at least a Republican, who's come out in favor of impeachment. And I wanted to get Bernie Sanders' take on it. And he admitted that he didn't feel, that it was possible that he could be wrong on it, but he doesn't feel like impeaching Donald Trump is something that we could do because it'll mobilize his base. I'm not gonna smash. I'm not gonna bash Bernie. I just want to address this a nonsensical thing that's going around not only in some Democratic circles, establishment Democratic circles, but I'm also seeing it being repeated in leftist circles. And that's the fear of holding Donald Trump accountable because it may have a backlash or trigger a backlash from his supporters. The first and foremost thing about that is that his supporters are already rabid. They're already supporting him no matter what he does. They're already outraged, even though they have nothing to be outraged over. They're already furious, even though they have nothing to be furious over. They are highly mobilized, and impeachment is not going to mobilize them any further. He still gets tremendous support. But setting aside how illogical that argument is, it absolutely makes no sense for people who demand accountability, people in general, anyone, to allow this president to go unaccountable. But specifically people who spent the last couple of years crying about war crimes and people not being prosecuted on Wall Street and, all these things, all the things that we say about holding people accountable. Now, as leftists or a handful of leftists, we don't want to hold Donald Trump accountable. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And from the leftist perspective, the handful of leftists, I don't know how many it is, but I see a few, and I take a few anecdotes and I extrapolate, and I'm not going to I extrapolate and make an analysis of it, even though I'm not placing this analysis at the feet of all leftists, right? So if I see it a couple times, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to make an analysis out of it, even though it may not be a trend, an actual trend, if that makes sense to you. So I saw some responses to this from people on the left, and the only way I can understand any of us on the left not wanting to hold Donald Trump accountable for what we now know clearly were impeachable offenses, whether or not the Senate finds him guilty and puts him out of office is entirely different, because that's a political process. But so is the initial implementation of an impeachment in the first place. And it's a political process that's set forth in order to have a check on power. Now, for the only way this makes sense to me from people on the left who complain constantly about powerful people not being held accountable is because there's still a resistance to the resistance. There's still a lot of people on the left who do not want to give any credence whatsoever to the resistance, the establishment. I'm doing quotes if you can't see them. The establishment resistance. And to the point where they will let Donald Trump off the hook. And let's be clear, all the wars that Bush started and Barack Obama got us into, those wars are still going on, right? And we're getting ready, he's getting ready to attack Iran, potentially. We talked about that last week. Hopefully he doesn't. So it's not as though you're standing on the side of a otherwise decent president who's under attack by the resistance. You're tacitly allowing one of the most corrupt presidents who is continuing the exact same imperialistic and capitalistic paradigm as George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, as Barack Obama. So he is in no way, shape, form, or fashion acceptable to you as a leftist, but you're allowing him to continue unchallenged without any checks on power. And the only thing that really makes sense logically to me isn't the argument that he's going to rally his base, because his base is already rallied. And even if his base does get rallied even more, How are we not going to seize this opportunity to hold a president accountable for not for collusion, not for being the Manchurian candidate, not for being a Putin stooge, but for obstruction of justice? To me, it's showing, and to be sure, this is not a Bernie Sanders problem, even though I was surprised that he took that line. This is not a problem of the left, but I find it fascinating that people on the left are now in line with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who are saying the same things. It is critically important that we unless I'm sorry, here's a side thought. Unless you're just saying I really don't give a shit about checks and balances, I really don't give a shit about Congress's ability to hold a president accountable because you want to see all this burn down, right? Unless that's what you're saying, and even if that is what you're saying, okay. But unless you're saying that, then it makes absolutely no sense for us to see a president who is as corrupt in every way, in every way that leftists hate. He's corrupt. And while most of the things that we hate are just a part of our system, imperialism and capitalism, yet he's gone above and beyond to obstruction of justice. And now we have the opportunity to hold a president accountable. And I have people on the left, including Bernie Sanders, who are like, well, we don't want to mobilize the base. I'm like, I'm sorry, that was Barack Obama. That wasn't Bernie. And I'm like, really? Seriously? I think it's critically important because unless we put a check on the presidency, the power of the presidency, the same power that we complained about Barack Obama having too much of, there needs to be a check there, particularly with the ability to wage war without an authorization of use of military force, right? But no, we've already capitulated on that. Are we going to also capitulate now on the president? I mean, the violation of the emoluments clause. I mean, he's clearly enriching himself off of the presidency. I mean, there's a long list of things, including obstruction of justice, for which we should impeach and hold this president accountable. And yet we have different, and it's a good political tool because let's not forget. I mean, this is still politics. This is still politics. All right, patrons, thanks so much. I got to get out of here. Sorry for the late video, but hopefully you guys are at home chilling and you can watch it and not have to be watching it at work, maybe. All right, I'll be hosting David Pakman on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Tomorrow I will put out another video, and slowly but surely we're going to get back to a sense of normality, normal delivery of highly produced content. I like doing this content with you. It's really organic and it's really intimate in its own way, but we're going to get some highly produced content out to you soon. All right, take care.